When I was in Phoenix last month at the George Benson Breezin With The Stars event, I saw my old friend, Al Meola, and got a chance to sit down with him again and have a chat. Here's my interview. Al.
How's it going, Rick?
Going great. Great to see you.
You too, you too.
So, what have you been working on lately?
The latest thing is the electric band. Mm-hmm. We've done a few tours already going back to the early albums. Wanted to kind of remind people, what that was like back there in the 70s, which, they were my most popular records. I didn't think I'd ever go back to it, but I thought, let's do it, one more time, And it's completely different in contrast to the brand new music, that I've been working on the last 4 years, which finally came out in the summer. A record called 24 was supposed to be 2024 as the year was completed. So I started in 2020 and had the record company agree to me doing a solo record, just without overdubs. But as time went on, I got the itch to add stuff.
Sure.
Especially percussion. I love playing percussion. Half of it's still kind of on the light side, some of it's solo, and then the other half is quite involved, with other instrumentation. So
we talked about this earlier on stage, but about your arrangements that you do, and kind of talk about how you come up with these and how you develop your arrangements.
It just starts with it could start with something simple like. And I just like that sound. I like this. Now you gotta get clever, right? So I'm thinking time it's against the quarter note, Except there's odd bars here. This is where I combined something I developed more so during this period, which was pick and fingers, like a hybrid thing. my commercial piece.
Love it. Beautiful.
And that's half
Beautiful.
of part one.
Okay, Al, your harmonic concept, where does this come from?
Well, I have influences,
Yeah.
like we all have.
It's very contrapuntal. It's modern classical. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. You have jazz, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but the harmony is
Yeah,
way
well,
more advanced than most jazz harmony.
If you know who my influences are and who I was kind of, channeling in a way while I was writing, like guys like Towner,
Yes.
Gismonti,
Yeah,
very much so. Maybe a little Piazzolla,
yeah.
When I listen to their work, I hear those kinds of interesting harmonies, you
Yeah.
know, and I still aspire to write like that.
Yeah.
So this is my attempt at doing that kind of thing. I just was not thinking at all about radio or sales or anything like that. I was just thinking about art, making a record that's aesthetically pleasing to me.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole record turned out to be, So I have no high expectations, but I like where my writing has gone, and that's taken, a front and center position to even my the days of all of that, the Flash. But then again, we started with when I started with Chick Corea, it wasn't only about technical proficiency. Of the three fusion bands, it was the most compositional in
Yes,
a way.
absolutely.
Weather Report was conceptually very cool.
Yeah.
And Mahavishnu was a blowing band
Yeah.
in comparison.
Yeah.
But Return to Forever was a composition band.
Absolutely.
When somebody would ever talk about the amount of technique we were displaying, yeah, it was all within, the framework of these great compositions of Chick. So he was a big influence, of course.
Yeah.
And especially in my earlier records as time went on. This originally was recorded on an Ovation, full body, in a rubato fashion. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough for people, if you're playing it in time, to grasp all of it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to get. So I decided to re-record it with a nylon in time,
Yeah.
with a groove, kind of like what we call a chaka or a tumbao.
Yeah.
And it was played by my friend, who's just
He just plays rhythm for you. Yeah.
he did it with his hands. I did it with a pick, but so it gives it a different sound. When you're playing against that, you then, for me, it's natural to change rhythms. It's like even with a standard piece of classical music that I'm reading at the moment, I can syncopate and change those rhythms. It doesn't mean like if it's there, I have to play what's there.
Yeah.
Anybody that has a Latin sensibility, we're feeling the upbeat a lot of the times.
Yeah.
We'll be playing against the clave without that clave moving an iota, a hair. Or if you wanted to, you make it intentional,
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. Of the people that regularly watch my channel, 58% are actually not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button now. This will help me to get even more of my dream guests and continue to grow my channel. Thank you.
Al, can people learn to groove?
Yeah.
You can work on your time, but groove is different than time.
You know, your son has an extraordinary ability, right? I think my young daughter, has this rhythmic ability. So some of it is like you're born with, or a great deal of it in your case with your son. And I think I had that rhythm thing a long time ago.
Yes.
And I did spend a lot of years by myself getting into New York City and hanging out in salsa clubs. I remember climbing up the stairs, even though a lot of people were dancing and the big band was going, whether it was Tito Puente or whoever. And I just took it all in. And I spent a lot of years, which I shouldn't have done, but now that I look back, I'm glad I did it, on just desktops, tapping rhythms. And I could do it on my guitar too, but I did a lot of it with my foot, always concentrating on the 4/4 with that never going out of time. So basically what I've said in a lot of demonstrations of this kind of thing, or clinics I've done, is really focus on the foot. It becomes very important. Sometimes I say the most important, because whatever syncopations you're playing on the upper half of your body cannot influence that quarter note down there. So it's like two separate parts, right?
Yeah.
And for most guitar players, it's not achievable.
Yeah.
I mean, they could try to see if it's achievable. You have to try it.
Yeah.
But it can be a thing that you just might not be able to get. So you wind up. I would always recommend then, if you have to, metronome it, or a lot of guys are playing with drummers, so there's your time.
When I look at social media, there's people that play everything with drum machines instead of playing in ensembles where there's the swing that happens, the natural human element. How important is that?
I haven't played a lot with the machines. I have nothing against it or anything like that, but just things got further, and as far as rhythm, things got further, let's say, along by the guys that I was fortunate enough to play with, like Chick in the beginning, who was a master. He was a master at rhythm, My first love anyway is drums and percussion. We got along in that regard. We didn't do enough. And then I went later years when I played with Gonzalo, it was like off the charts. What's magical is when you have the ability to feel the quarter note, like my foot's still going. It's like, hey, I gotta talk to it sometimes. Stop. You can stop. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
So you can have these giant pauses in the music, but that's where the drama is, the pause. Because if the guys don't have that sensibility, the time, where's the time? No. If you have that sensibility, you can have these giant pauses in between, Yeah. You know what I mean? Just little examples like that. And so if I took a piece that's not mine, like a Piazzolla thing that was written, beautiful. So Astor was for me, when I met him, it was a major change in my writing and my playing, in the sense that, he had a lot of beautiful melody in his music, but he didn't have a lot of rhythm going on in it, because Argentina, even though it's next to Brazil, is completely different, So he gave me his blessing personally. We became very good friends. And the next record, had he not had his stroke, what it was going to be with me and him. But he did say to me, and he wrote to me, he used to write me letters, and I wrote back. It's the only time I wrote letters at that age. And he goes, "Dear Alberto, I want to hear you do something special with my music. Do something unique, So I got his blessing, because, the diehard tangueros, you can't change it. It's like the flamenco guys that from the old school gave Paco a very hard time.
Yeah.
Piazzolla, they gave death threats. So he had to leave Argentina and moved to Paris, studied with Nadia Boulanger, lucky guy. You know, and he wanted to become like a, you know, a composer like in the framework of somebody like Bach. And it was Nadia who says, no way. Your soul is tango. Don't you ever lose that in the music. Because of her, we have the, you know, that modern Nuevo tango, which was beautiful, you know. So what, you know, I took that and I read it and it was straight. Like, boom. And here's my foot. That kind of thing.
Amazing.
So it changes the whole feel. So when you have that, you can apply percussion. You know, it's like this. Paco had that too. Paco had a lot of swing. Mm-hmm. You know, he had a lot of rhythm, and he wasn't a completely traditional guy. He liked the, you know. You know, you know, it's just, we can go on forever, you know. So he had that, we had that together. Mm-hmm. When Jon was soloing in the middle, he was like, phew. He had stereo, totally in sync, you know, counter rhythms, but like in that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was lucky. You know, we got along really well. That we understood that kind of playing against the clave language, even though he comes from the flamenco school. I don't. I come from a kind of a Latin, you know, a Latin influence.
I can listen to that all day.
Yeah, and then if you were to do renditions of Bach, like we were discussing before, it just doesn't work. It's corny. And you have to have the instinct, which is experience, time, to know what works and what could be corny. Never should it be corny. Corny is the worst.
Corny is the worst.
It's the worst that you did. Yeah. We don't want to talk about it.
Al, when you're creating these pieces or when you're improvising, like I never feel like you have any patterns or anything like that. It just feels so.
Everything I have tons of patterns.
Everything seems so spontaneous.
I feel like I don't have enough vocabulary. I mean,
my God, no.
If we could live 3-4 lifetimes, there was just so much more to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't realize because I'm in the moment, so of course I don't know. You know what it's like when you're improvising. You don't remember what you did, half of it, or most of it.
Your voice of what you're playing here is so unique to you. It's kind of your compositional style, and your linear style and everything doesn't sound like anyone. Yeah. It really doesn't.
Stanley Clarke said the same thing. I can never, with Al, I can never figure out who he listened to.
Right.
And he said it a few times, and I started really thinking about that. I said, yeah, you can't pin me to Hendrix or,
No.
and I, one time I sat backstage at the BBC, and George Martin was presenting a Lifetime Achievement Award, which like I was like almost in tears. I was like so moved that he even knew who I was, right? And I got to talking with him, and you know, he asked me who I listened to when I grew up. I said, well, the Beatles, George.
Right.
He goes, no. He didn't see any of the Beatles in what I do. I said, but man, that the whole generation of us
Right.
loved the Beatles.
Yeah.
And still love the Beatles. What you did was amazing. He was trying to tell me, yeah, they're okay. I mean, what? What? And at one point I was like, George, you know, I wanted to shake him. I said, are you kidding?
What is your favorite Beatles arrangement that you do, or what's your favorite Beatles tune to play?
Well, I did a little bit of Strawberry last night, and I do a little bit of like Norwegian. Well, let me play you this other thing. This is a piece that I wrote, and it was originally written. And yeah, it's pretty, but then my instincts kick in. I said. So those little spaces, only really work if the time, you don't lose the time. So if you're playing with any kind of guy that just doesn't have that, it ruins the hypnosis of the moment.
Yeah.
You know, so the hypnosis is when you have those spaces. And then you come in on an offbeat like a bar and a half later. It's what I've been doing so long that I just don't realize that.
And that's why you can play solo like this.
Yeah.
You're one of the very few people that can play solo guitar, Al, like that, and play linear things and keep the groove and keep the people feeling the time, because your time sense is so strong. I mean, I can count on one hand people that can play solo guitar like that and improvise and do stuff.
not even Ralph or well, because Monte has that sensibility, especially if we were doing something together. I can imagine he's got a rhythmic sense that's unbelievable. But both of those guys are so amazing because their piano playing is as good as their guitar playing. That's right. And their composing. So
yes, absolutely.
I look up to them. I look up to Piazzolla. I still look up to Chick, and I listen to the Beatles on a daily basis just because they're in my car on Sirius FM. You know, my two favorite pieces are, Strawberry Fields and I Am the Walrus.
Oh my God!
But I did a little bit of Norwegian because the original version of
these
Norwegian
are all John
Wood,
Lennon songs too.
Yeah, there you go again.
I mean,
no, and I love Paul. Wait a minute.
love Paul too, but every time I think of Beatles songs, Strawberry Fields, John Lennon song. Norwegian Wood, John Lennon song.
Yeah, but when I get
Walrus,
into that,
John Lennon song.
I get into that, then I start going, okay, Penny Lane was so great.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you can go down the list for No One, know.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Amazing,
about.
yeah.
Thank God for the both of them.
That's
they
right.
made our lives as rich as it was. That what would life had been without them,
Yeah.
So when analyzing Paul's stuff, I now realize why you can add all that production on there, because a lot of the tunes were quarter note piano parts.
Right.
Penny Lane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
Right.
And when you have that, now it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, because that's not me.
Right.
Because if I did that without words and lyrics, it would be very corny. And
Yeah.
I'm known for doing my rhythm thing.
Yeah.
But it allowed them to add on all of this
Yeah.
supreme production
Yeah. Those beautiful
with the
arrangements.
classical instruments and
Yeah.
all. And so, and I analyze a lot of what he did a lot, very simplistic rhythm.
Yeah.
Changes were nice, very nice.
Yeah.
But, that was his thing.
The thing about Lennon's is all the unusual chord progressions that he would come up with.
John,
Yeah, Norwegian Wood is that most beautiful modal melody.
the world knows it. So I had to add my own parts to it because the original, as beautiful as it is, we never thought it was a short piece, but it was 1 minute and 59 seconds.
Yeah.
So I said, as an instrumental, I gotta add some of my things. So like, what would they have done if they were an instrumental band? How would they elongate this piece? So,
Oh, beautiful.
something like that. Like
So
that.
great.
Like
that. Al.
And this I kept straight, like. Then I go,
Ooh, nice. That's beautiful. Beautiful.
and
Oh.
it just goes on and on. There's a lot of written parts that go off over there, but always returns back to
Yeah.
what we know, because this is so beautiful. Always with the time.
Yeah.
So it's in that 3/4 time,
Yeah.
6/8.
All the drones and the dissonances that you're using are so beautiful. The haunting sound.
Because and also, you know, it's pick pressure. It's the articulations are not all even.
Yeah, every note that you play is
Yeah.
a different volume.
Thanks
Yes.
for noticing.
It's not only every
Because
note, then your articulations, you use so many muted notes and
Right.
you create so many rhythms on top of this
because
steady flow
I'm
like that.
I'm like this frustrated drummer, percussionist. I hear things like that.
Yeah.
My sensibilities go that direction. So
And what do you practice? Do you ever just practice anything, or
everything that I write
is
a practice.
or do you just is that your practice? Is
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
because you write things that you want to work on?
Yeah, or it could be anything out of a book. I love to read. Reading is the most calming thing that I can do when there's a lot of stress. Reading or writing, music, not tab.
Right. Al, you never look at your neck when you're playing.
I don't have to.
You just never do. Like when you're reading, you never look down ever, no matter how complex the line is.
Well, I didn't realize that. Sometimes I have to look at it. Sometimes. It depends. There's a piece you might like. Don't try to even read it because it's. I have I switched parts where the beginning is now down at the bottom.
Right.
Yeah. And to rewrite is a lot of work, but. This chord's for you. This one I have to read.
Beautiful.
So that one remained a solo piece on the record called "For Only You," because it was really not meant to play with a hard 4/4.
There's no guitarist that sounds like you.
Thank God.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of young guitarists are not ever focused on rhythm.
Right.
They're focused on the coolness of the speed and the lines. That's very important, very good. But if there's any kind of Latin sensibilities that the heavy metal guys don't go for the Latin thing at all.
No.
Because heavy metal is this. And any kind of Latin thing, if you have a Latin sensibility, you're feeling this.
Right.
Like if my foot's going, you don't even hear that. And the whole idea of that little exercise, which that could be, is so that the foot doesn't move. You know.
Beautiful.
Anyway.
Unbelievable.
Now in Brazil, I hired a samba school going back at least to 1981. I had some gigs there, solo gigs, and I just asked the promoter to, find me some good percussion to play with. But then I had an even better idea to hire a whole samba school, and there must have been about 20 percussionists.
Okay.
Sit in the middle. They were surrounding me in the EMI studio in Rio de Janeiro, and I did this kind of. Ate this up.
Oh, I bet.
It was a huge sound surrounding me, and I was. Sometimes I have to switch feet. Well, both. So that was a lot of fun doing that.
Amazing.
Amazing.
When you go back and listen to some of your early records,
Yeah.
what surprises you and what
I get what it is now.
Yeah.
Of what they found to be interesting in what I was doing. I really get it more now than then. Because when you're in the moment, I don't even think the Beatles knew how great they were when they were in their 20s.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I made some good choices with my rhythm section, having Steve Gadd and Anthony Jackson primarily
Yeah.
on those first 4 or 5 albums. Jan Hammer, Barry Miles, and a host of different. Lenny White played on some tracks as well. So I always had a great ensemble. And what's the difference in that is that those kind of guys, they're great readers. So
Yep.
I didn't have more than a day with them. for any of those records.
That's amazing.
They read it all down. As even when I wrote drum trots, not just bass and keyboard and guitar. And Steve always said to me, "Yeah, you know, I'd rather have the bass part." And he would he would take the 4 or 5 pages or whatever, and he would just tape them under the cymbals, you know, on the cymbal stands. And that was it. I didn't have them for that long of a time because they were that good of a reader. But they brought something to the table. They made what I wrote even better, what they added in.
Yeah.
You know, and there is that can happen with players of that level. And then there's times when I really don't mind saying, you know, this is really what I hear. And it might be unorthodox to start a pattern on the end of 2 or something or 3. But I'm hearing things that because I'm hearing the whole picture of the music. And, you know, I will never have a percussionist and a drummer play the same thing. So it becomes, and that's the way I would mix it as well. I'd have the drums on one side, kind of like Ringo on one side, and, you know, the cello over there. And it's beautiful. I mean, I've always used that George Martin school of mixing.
Like when I hear the Beatles
Yeah.
do that kind of panning, it just sounds like so normal. And then I've tried to do that. And it's like, whoa, you know, drums over here. It's because you are just used to that and you don't think about it. When you try and do it, like me, when I try to do that with a different thing, it's like, oh, that's a really bold choice, right? To do that. And you just kind of accepted that the drums would be in one speaker and the, you know, it's really fascinating.
So I would put a rhythm like that on one side and then on the other side, you know, maybe 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know we don't listen to stereos as much, but boy, it's really cool to go back to listening to stereo, you know.
I listen to stereos every day, Al.
Yeah. You know, we have an Aldi Meola signature turntable now that this German company called Clear Audio has put out. High quality, high end.
I'll put it in the description below.
Yeah. The body of the phonograph is in the shape of a Les Paul. The body of a Les Paul. So you got a choice of black or, you know, a wood grain, you know, and it just finally came out. I got it on Christmas Eve.
So Al, the next time that we get together, I want to get you to play some electric guitar too.
Yeah, I brought it with me, but we'll do it.
Yeah, next time I want you to come to my studio.
Because there's a whole different thing that happens.
Yeah.
Then. The electric guitar to me is like a voice, like a great singer.
Yeah.
You know, and the things that you can do phrasing-wise is completely different than acoustic. This is my drum set at the same time. The electric guitar is not. You can't really do the same thing. It's not as effective.
Right.
So it's 2 different animals, and right now I've got both groups going. I've got the electric one doing the early music and some of the new music too, and I keep my acoustic trio or quartet going with a completely different format, you know.
Al, it's always a pleasure to hang with you and hear you play. Thank you so much.
Man. I thank you so much for bringing to the whole musical community your knowledge and wisdom.
Thank
You're
you.
the chief professor
Thank you.
of the guitar, you know.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Someday I'm going to get you to play with me.
Oh, man. I'm retired.
That's the one thing we haven't heard from Rick.
No, I'll get back into playing here one of these days.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, man.